Were you afraid of the boogeyman as a child? The boogeyman, the nightmarish entity that's life's goal is to scare the bejesus out of bad children. You may have been, but you may not have heard about this one. It may sound crazy, I know, but after my experience, I may never look at myself as a normal person. My family, my friends, they never believed me. They called me confused, a liar. Oh, maybe. I was only 10 at the time. I live in a neighborhood that you might have seen in old 50s movies like Grease, and I lived with my younger sister Emily and my dad. Our mom was sometimes at work till 10 o'clock. I was watching Sesame Street with Emily till we saw a bumper of a new show called Between the Lions. Between the Lions is basically a show similar to Sesame Street, but it was about how to read and spell. We watched the episode about a book of Abiyoyo, but what we saw seemed bizarre. The characters who play the lions seem to be normal, like in the series, but around the lion family, what was around the lion family was indescribable. Humanoid lizards crawling on the walls, pale bald people, spider walking down the stairs in the halls, men in black hooded cloaks standing with the children as if they were the teachers. Emily asked me about the hooded men and the creatures, and I told her that it's a Halloween episode, but after checking the calendar, I saw that it wasn't October. I thought this must have been a rerun, but as I was about to walk into the living room, I heard my sister call my name. Kyle? What do these words mean? I looked, and I saw the lion parents, Theo and Cleo, saying and spelling the words fire, blood, murder, destruction, evil, but they just said what the actual lines were. I was unnerved by this, so I went to turn the channel to Emily's dismay, but noticed something that, well, it sure caught my attention. The set was similar to our library that was right across from our home, and I thought the library was usually CGI and not real, but it was actually filmed in the library in our hometown, and that's not even the scary part. As I looked through the window, I saw children playing in the front lawn, and I looked back at the television and saw, in absolute shock, the children were there being filmed, and they were playing with one of the lion puppets, Lionel and Leona. It was as if they were being filmed live. My eyes widened, and Emily noticed that I was pale as a sheet. She asked me what's wrong, and already started to breathe heavily, feeling my chest go up and down. I told her to go in her room and watch SpongeBob, and she nodded and went to her bedroom. What was going on? Why were the children at the library, and how is it that I'm not losing my mind over something a pair of little children couldn't understand? Being only 10 years old and barely mature enough to understand these types of predicaments, I was both confused and terrified, but I had to keep it from becoming more of an issue, even if it brought me to my downfall. The next day, after I got off the school bus, Emily hugged me and said that the lions were following her to her school. My mind went in all directions. Who followed you? I asked, not letting her know I was terrified. The lions from that show, silly, she chirped. Now, I was starting to panic. My heart was beating like a galloping horse. I started sweating bullets, and I was on the verge of breaking down into panic screams. Now she was telling me what sounded like something that a madman would say in an insane asylum, but thank God this was going on inside of me. Because I didn't want to frighten her and let her know this was a very scary situation. Me and Emily went inside. She was already watching Between the Lions, and they showed something that made my blood turn cold. It showed the 4 puppets inside my own house, and I was in frame. I looked at the TV, and back where the cameraman would have been. Oh, I ran out of the house screaming for my mom and dad as they pulled in the driveway, tears in my eyes. I was literally going insane, but I had to be strong for my family, and most of all, I had to be strong for Emily. But who's going to be strong for me? I had no other choice but to ward off this evil entity that's stalking Emily at school, scaring me to death. Later that night, I crept out of my house and ran to the library with nothing but a flashlight. I remember the people in the library locking the doors and windows, and I might regret doing this, but I had no other option. I picked the lock and entered the front door. Good thing the game Skyrim taught me how to pick locks. I searched throughout the entire library and found a book upstairs in the middle of the kiddie section. It was a book called The Necronomicon, a book on how to raise the dead. I know this because I accidentally took a peek at my dad watching Evil Dead. I knew that if I took the book to my parents and showed them what the library was doing, they would believe me. So I grabbed the book, I looked at it in my 10-year-old hands, and suddenly I heard the office door knob shaking, and I turned. And I called out, "Who's there?" And every fiber of my being froze in unimaginable fear. The door slowly creaked open. I heard the most awful sound I've ever heard. I saw them crawling on all fours, pulsating, bloodshot eyes looking at me. One of them had bandages around its eyes, obviously blind, but held my horrified stare. Their hideously grotesque, sharp teeth gnarling, their pointed ears down, obviously angry at what I had done. But what the hell could I do? And all I did was grab this book on how to raise the fucking dead. I shined the flashlight on the creatures, but they vanished. I turned it off, and I saw them still there. It flashed on, off, and I realized they're invisible when in the light. I went to run downstairs, but I saw two creatures similar creatures blocking the entrance, which was my only escape. The monster on the other side had a hat and a t-shirt similar to Lionel in the show. I just figured it out. The truth behind Between the Lions. It was them. These things I was confronting, this was them. The lions in the show. In the show, the lions were little puppets, but in real life, it was their little game of Russian roulette with reality. They were brainwashing us, tricking us, and then becoming their victims before killing us and eating us. The meats that the puppets were eating, those were parts of children. I didn't want to think that. I did not want to think of something like that. I just couldn't. My childish mind was too feeble for such nonsense. I wanted out of this hellish place as fast as I could, but I was stuck in one place, too scared to move. Then I felt the blind creature grab my shoulders from behind, biting into my shoulder. I let out a gut-wrenching cry as the pain shot from my right shoulder down my arm, and the thing that's supposed to be Lionel let out a demented clown-like cackle as I cried out in both pain and terror. I elbowed the monster off my back, punched it in the jaw. I ran downstairs, bypassed the two monsters, and slammed the door shut and ran home. I was beginning to feel dizzy from the amount of blood loss. I tried crying out for Mom and Dad. I thought I wasn't going to make it. So I collapsed in the middle of the front lawn and blacked out. I woke up in the hospital and I heard Emily chirping, "Look, Mommy, he's waking up." "Emily?" I asked quietly. "Kyle, thank God," my mom said with tears in her eyes. "I'm glad you're okay." "Thank you, doctor." My dad smiled, shaking hands with the medical professional. He was happy that I was going to make it out alive. "Where did you find this weird book?" my dad asked. I looked and I saw the Necronomicon in my dad's hands. I was in the library last night. With that said, I told them everything, but they wouldn't believe me. They said that the librarian told them that I was breaking into the library and stealing a book. They said I was attacked by a guard dog that was just doing its job. But I swear on the holy book that these were no guard dogs. Some of the things I saw were standing on their hind legs, doing movements that I recall as like marionettes. And they didn't run toward me. Instead, they were flown toward me as if hands were inside their backs, making their facial movements. This reminded me of the new It movie, like how horror movie reviewers describe Pennywise with his puppet-like performance. Because of my traumatizing experience, I might as well be in the new It movie. These creatures I saw in the library that night was just like the new, improved Pennywise, but maybe worse than Pennywise. I didn't know what happened, or how nobody saw what I saw. I grew up paranoid, skeptical of that library. Moved out of that country and ended up living in a suburban home in Newport News, Virginia. Oh, I still watch Between the Lions on YouTube. But after what happened during my childhood, it made me think twice about things. Let this story be a warning to all of you out there. Be extra, extra, extra careful about what you watch on PBS Kids. They may be cute and harmless to kids, but what lies behind that innocent disguise just might be the last thing you'll ever see.